I'm Will Hedrick.
And I'm Jordan Schaffer.
And this is Dog Ears and Timestamps, a book reading club. A book club podcast. What is this? I forget what I say.
Witchercast.
Witchercast. It's Witchercast.
A book club podcast.
There, that's what it is that I say. How did I forget that? It was a long weekend.
You're on autopilot, and normally
I've been on vacation. I don't know what's going on.
Well, normally autopilot will take you there.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
Didn't this time. Botched it.
Yeah. It's been a long week. Well, obviously, the weekend.
A long weekend. Driving down to Portland, drinking every night, driving back on a pretty mad hangover.
Friends getting married.
Yeah. It was a crazy time. It was a good time. Got to see a lot of people I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah. How's the family?
They're good. I saw them for like all of 10 hours because my parents were there on Friday whenever Kenneth and I showed up, and then they left Friday morning to come up to Green because they were going to a concert for Saturday night. So they weren't even back whenever we left. We probably passed them somewhere on 123 or something like that. You know, so
it's like, here's the key to my house. Can you give me the? You already have a key to go home, but
yeah, I told them, hey, if you want to stay at the house, you can stay at the house. I'm like, nah, we're just gonna stay in Green because it's about 45 minutes. Yeah. It would have been a bit of a pain in the ass, but. Yeah, for the short bit of time I saw them, they seemed like they were doing good.
Yeah, cool. No, that's good that you even got a little bit with them. So that's nice. This week, yesterday, I did my like good deed, you know, that we're always supposed to do one a day. But like mine, I went to the grocery store and I was leaving. Like I had already bought everything, took all the stuff back to my car. Took my cart back, and I was driving out, and one of the crosswalks from like the grocery store to the like aisles where you park the car, there was this bag in the middle of it. I couldn't tell what brand it was. I know what brand it is now, but like saw it was kind of a nice looking bag, so I hopped out of my car, grabbed it, drove, hit a parking spot, and I ran up in. Well, I didn't run, but I walked quickly inside to give it to the front end manager, who I've seen at HEB like every time I go. It's always this short little like kind of nerdy girl that like I've seen her basically do every position since I've lived in Florida. I was like, man, this girl's everywhere. So I knew that she would be reliable.
Right.
So I took it up to her, and she was talking to another lady, and she had like a coworker walking up. So I gave it to the coworker, and I told her, I was like, hey, I saw this purse outside. Just wanted to bring it back into somebody. And she's like, oh, thank you. She tapped her friend, the front end girl that I was taking it to with the purse. And she like turned around, saw it. Oh, thanks. Grabbed it, handed it to the lady she was talking to. It was literally like the lady she was talking to was like, I don't know what happened to my purse. And then like, boom.
Oh,
so like,
that's hilarious.
She got her purse back, and so that was cool. And, you know, she was like, oh, thank you so much. That's really nice. And she was like with her daughter. So both of them got to see that there's some nice people out there.
Right.
not like little kids even think that negatively that like people are bad. But, it's always nice to do the right thing. And then like, honestly, it's kind of nice to this is like the selfish part of doing a good deed. It's kind of nice to see the good deed go through,
right?
Fully, and it's like
because a lot of times you take the wallet or whatever it is to the stores lost and found, and then you never know if anything happens.
Just hope that it works out, and that was like an instant gratification. Like, all right, my good deed went like directly, like it all worked out, and then today, as I was leaving work to come over here, there was like a red Toyota Tacoma next to me that could park next to me. And there's this cute little dog in the back just looking at my car and kind of barking and panting and just like, not panting crazy hard, but breathing, with his mouth open. Right. And I had gotten in my car and the windows had been cracked because I wanted to try and let my car air out because there was some like fast food trash in there.
Right.
So,
fast food sounds so good.
Right. But so I was trying to, whatever smell might be in there. I was also my lunch that I'd heated up. Like I just trying to avoid any smell. And so I was sitting in my car and I was like, man, it was hot in my car just waiting with the windows down. Like that, if that car's not running, the dog's going to be burning up. So like I got out of my car and I walked over to the car and it didn't sound like the engine was on, and like the windows were all rolled up. They had those like little, like the rain window blockers so you can keep it cracked and have like the airflow even in the rain. I was just like, man, I don't know what to do. So I went back into the store and I was like, hey, I don't know if there's anything we can do, but there's a car out there with a dog inside of it, and the car's not turned on or anything. Like normally I wouldn't even think about it, like especially if the car was turned on. I've done that, I'll leave my car running with AC, and if it was cool outside, like actually winter, like it should, like the season we're in, I wouldn't have thought anything of it, but it was too hot today. And so when I went in, the front end manager again, but I know him, I work with him every day, we walked outside, and he's like, that truck. And then the merchandising manager lady walked out there with me, and she took a picture of the license plate, and they were going to do like a call over the intercom because it was in the Total One parking lot.
Right.
The guy whose car it was ended up walking up as she was taking the picture, and he's like, hey, everything okay? And she's like, is this your car? And he was like, yeah. And she's like, well, we saw your dog in there just panting, and the car was turned off, and it's really hot outside, so we just got a little nervous. And he was like, oh, well, I had some water in there for him and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but it's illegal and it's too hot right now to do that. Like, it's just like, don't lie to us.
It has been warmer
he was
yesterday
lying.
and today.
He was just lying so he didn't look like an asshole. Like, it's okay. The dog was fine, but I was going to stay there and make sure that like something happened. And then like the security police person that drives around the parking lot ended up driving by as we were talking to the guy. Not like I was going to be like, hey.
Right. Yeah.
But like, it was nice to know that there would have been somebody like an officer or something that could
very
help
likely
me
could have been caught
if I needed to do something to get the dog out, like
right.
Or, I would never want to break someone's windshield. That's crazy. But like,
that's extreme.
That
you
is a law,
be
I think,
calling
in California.
The authorities to take care of that sort of thing.
Right. And there was one.
People shouldn't just be busting people's cars open.
No, for sure. Especially when you don't know the situation. But he came back like, oh, I was just ran in for a minute. And there was water in the car, and I was like, okay, well, your dog was panting really a lot and barking, and the car was turned off, and it's really hot outside, and it's illegal. It's like, dude, you did the wrong thing. Like, I get you're trying to cover up, but like, we're looking out for your dog. So like, I don't know. So anyway, nobody got in trouble, and I hope he feels kind of dumb for doing that. And the only reason I hope he feels dumb is so that he never does it again. Like, I don't want anyone to feel dumb. But so 2 days in a row, I got to be like Geralt, and I got to. No, nice. I just didn't have any outlet to say that, and I know that you're supposed to like the true check of like somebody's goodness or whatever. Like a good deed is supposed to go like without telling anybody. Like if you see trash, you pick it up and you throw it away and you don't tell anybody.
I have picked up this trash.
I picked up some litter on my way in, but like, so I try and do that and not tell people because it's not a big deal. You're just trying to do good and send out good vibes or whatever. But like, I don't know. I thought those were kind of, it was nice, and I got like almost instant gratification on both of them. Yeah, because it's like, all right, dog was good, and the lady got her purse back. So it's just, that's my busy week. But I mean, work hasn't been too crazy, and I listened to the reading, this last section of what we had. I listened to all of it yesterday with like my order, and it was good. There was a lot of cool fight scenes. We got some new characters that I really, really liked, like that we got a lot more of, a lot more information on. And we got some new races, like new classifications of current races, I guess, that we already knew about, like the vampire. And lots of good fight scenes, Milva, good fight scenes. Geralt gets like a different sword. It's just like, it's all sorts of good stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it happened, pretty much as we expected.
That was the other thing.
The Milva and the Nilfgaardian, Kay here, and Regis rescue our Witcher and Bard, and then they flee and at some point meet back up with the dwarves, and everything's relatively hunky dory.
Yeah.
Called it.
Not
that it was that difficult to call. I think the only thing that really changed. Or not changed, but rather went slightly the way we didn't expect is what was going on with the Witch's Coven.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Thought that maybe it would be like a last second reveal of Yennefer, but we actually get to spend, more than just a little bit of time with Yennefer, who'd been fucking...
But she was one of the candidates.
Transmogrified into a jade statuette.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that at all. But.
No. But she was one of the two potential candidates, right, for that last seat.
Well, not for the last seat. The last seat is in fact being held for Ciri.
Oh.
Which we figured. Yeah. She was one of the two candidates that the Elven Queen and the Valley of Blossoms or the Valley of Flowers wanted to nominate whenever she was like, can I have one extra seat? I have somebody I have in mind. And evidently that was Yennefer, who she had captured and spirited away from the from Thanded whenever all that shit was going down.
One thing that was cool too, so that Nilfgaardian that we got, he ended up being bound by like fate and dreams and stuff to everybody, right? It was him that was having the similar dreams to Geralt. Yeah. He was like, wait, you had the dream that I haven't told anybody about?
Right, yeah, apparently
so that was kind of
cool. The same thing.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much more, like, obviously their lives are intertwining, and Geralt even talks about how he has his own little, like, he doesn't say this, but I'm thinking like his own little rat pack, because he's got his crew of people that you never would have expected, and he's like very reluctant to accept help, so he's just like, for what he even, I think he says this, he's like, I have like a group of people that want to help me. I don't know why they like, I don't know why, but I'm not saying no this time. And so that was nice. Like, Geralt's growing. Vampire's just badass. Regis, he's just awesome. Dandelion, I hear that all the time now. No, Dandelion's still great. I love that he's like like he breaks the ice for all the awkward vampire questions that we wanted to ask. Like, how did you not freak out as you were patching him up and he was covered in blood? Right. Like, that would have made me freak out if I was around, like, my favorite thing. But then we learn later that the blood is just sort of like a drug to them. It's not necessarily their...
It's their equivalent of alcohol. Yeah, that's what they do to party. Yeah, it's not required for sustenance.
Exactly. So that was cool. And then just the other stuff we got to learn about the higher vampires just made them... I know we said this beforehand, but it's my favorite vampire now of all of the vampires, of all the stories that we've done, like better than Twilight, better than the Blade, even better than Blade, who only had the thirst. Is like, these guys don't even have the thirst.
Right. Yeah.
Just want to party.
Yeah.
And they want to do, and they happen to do it every full moon because that's like a holy day for them. But like once a month isn't that bad.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
you get trashed once a month.
I mean, if you say murder people once a month, that sounds bad. But,
yeah.
But you don't have to murder somebody to drink from them.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they had to. Yeah. You could definitely overindulge, like he had sort of gone down the path of doing.
Right.
But
and that was cool too, that he had gone down like the questionable path, not necessarily even the dark side, I don't think, but it was like the more, I guess the darker of the two paths.
Right. Yeah. But, What else? What else went on? We get more. I mean, obviously, it's just the three now that we've got Yennefer back and going between Cirilla, Geralt, and Yennefer. Ciri's just sort of doing nothing, or nothing important. We see that she's going down a bad path, and realizing that she, at least currently, loves violence and gets something out of killing people.
It's her dang elf blood.
Yeah, right. We get a very lengthy genealogy lesson about Cirilla from the sorceresses as they're trying to figure out, because their whole plan is to make Ciri queen in the north, so that there can be like a comparable kingdom to Nilfgaard and keep the world in balance.
Sansa's not gonna like that.
Yeah, right.
Crossover.
Also then the reason why she's so important is because she's got the elder blood in her, which is a thing that was thought to have been disappeared, but because of all this stuff, also she's a product of mild incest, and like it was difficult to follow that genealogy tree for as it was happening. I had to go back and read it again and be like, okay, now I get it.
She's just got it all.
Yeah. Right.
A product of mild incest.
Yeah, because it's like, and I don't, obviously I didn't write down the exact relation, but like her great great grandmother, and her like great like step cousin once removed or something like that at some point, like their descendants down the line came together and had a kid. But even that, it's like several generations removed, and it's not going to, it's an incest only in name, not like in genealogical like risk. Yeah,
that's got to happen more than we would think, right?
It totally does, yeah.
Man, that's going to be weird. And like, I mean, if
certainly like in small towns where like nobody leaves,
if like 21 and it's not 21 in me. What is it? It's
23 in me.
20. Thank you. I was like, I am so close.
Of chromosomes. If you've got 21 chromosomes, you've got a problem.
I mean, not me though. Yeah, that makes sense. Dumb. Okay, so 23. Yeah, so I mean, if 23andMe or something like that became kind of like mandatory, it'll be weird to kind of see the family trees once they're like so easily built, you know?
Right. If like a completely comprehensive family tree of the planet happened, I think people would be upset about some of the things they found out.
I agree. I think even I think it would be. I've heard that like people that are similar, like in that like there's some similarity in like people's genetic makeup, and that's why they're so closely, like why they become such close friends. Like I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, but like maybe two people of like a certain descent end up meeting in a completely different situation, like in college, but that's why they were so close. And I think it's just like it's like a statistic that makes it seem like they like people of like a 2% similar genetic makeup or whatever are more likely to be friends. I don't know what the actual number was, but it was something of some percentile of genetic similarity, like they are more likely to like be friends and stuff. And I was like, I wonder if that has, like, I wonder if there's, because of things like that, maybe it was because of, maybe we're just like kind of attracted to different, or maybe we're attracted to the same. Like, I don't know. I wonder. Well, I guess it'd just be interesting, I guess, to see.
Yeah,
see how, I know
to get more like hard data on that. Yeah. I mean, I can find the logical argument for that sort of thing. You know, there's you know, the birds of a feather saying.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then, you know, with all the tribalism that has always existed with humans, like if you were suddenly thrown onto another continent and you found somebody that looked like you, you'd be like, oh, there's somebody I can relate to. I need to gravitate towards that person and we'll survive together.
Right. But then on that same token, they always say like people in relationship, like opposites attract, you know, like that's a saying too, which is like, it kind of throws my other thing that I was saying out of the water. So it's, I guess it would be interesting to kind of get some data on it and maybe, you know, not saying that causation and correlation here are the same, but it'd be interesting for me, I guess. And that's interesting for this, you know, this book that isn't real, you know. So the rats, I don't know, are they gonna matter? Like, is Siri just gonna disappear from them, and then maybe she'll run into them later as she's Queen in the North, or like, and then she's like, well, they're not all bad, or like, I don't.
Right. Well,
is it just going to be part of her well-rounded education? Like,
I think that it's just something that she experiences. I think because now there's a bounty hunter after her specifically. Yeah, he's apparently like the most badass bounty hunter, the Boba Fett, if you will. But so, you know, a couple of them die in that confrontation. The rats get split up because of the fight that ensues, and then she gets captured or has to run away. And, you know, in that panic, it's separated from everybody and doesn't come back to them. And then that's the third, you know, fateful encounter with Geralt, that he shows up out of nowhere, you know, at the most opportune time to rescue her from her situation and blah, blah, blah.
Or Regis will. He tends to appear out of nowhere.
Right, yeah.
at the perfect time.
So I think that on the whole, do the rats matter? No. Do they come back at any point? Maybe one of them shows up in another Cirilla adventure, and she like has to like nod at them from afar and be like, "I'm leaving that life behind."
They know her from the past, but like Ciri's changed.
Maybe something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's not going to matter in any meaningful way. It could matter in
for that.
Yeah, exactly. It could matter just in that they are now named characters, and we can just be like, as a callback, be like, "Oh, I remember Missile," or whatever. Like, who cares? But aside from it just being like a formative part of her life, I don't think it matters beyond that.
Okay.
I doubt that we see the rats again after she leaves them.
Yeah.
If they don't all die.
I mean, Geralt knows he's going the wrong way, right? Like we've established.
He knows that they're not with Nilfgaard
sure.
anymore. Yeah. He's accepted that as the truth now. So, yeah, I mean, I guess does the party stay together? His little motley crew, do they stay together at this point after their current interaction with the guerrilla armies of the Lost Kingdoms of Rivia and whatever the other one was called?
Man, I hope so. We got a really cool, like, man, I keep trying to use fun vernacular, like rat pack. What is it? it's a fun group, fun hodgepodge of random people.
Right, yeah.
I'm trying to think of what the saying was, but I hope they all stay together. I mean, like I've said before, I really like Regis. I've always liked Dandelion. He's always been fun.
I think Dandelion definitely stays. I guess it kind of depends, like, how much further they have to go to get to the Druid conclave that they're trying to get to get some, assistance and direction. Kay here has left them for now because now that it's calm down and not a fight, they might be able to identify him as an Nilfgaardian and then, kill him.
No thanks. Yeah.
Milva's going through the miscarriage, so she's, out of action for however long it takes to go through that in that kind of setting where there's not modern medicine.
Yeah, I mean, like, unless they just leave her with Regis because he's a doctor.
Right.
Or a surgeon.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of what it is that Regis says, I'll stay behind and make sure that, she does okay. We'll hang out here at this port city with our friendly army.
Yeah.
Dandelion and Geralt, you go on wherever Cahir is, which Cahir is just going to be in the woods tracking them, and then whenever they get far enough away from the armies, he joins up with them again, I'm sure. I guess that's what happened, and then Milva, once she's done recovering, catches up, because now she's obsessed with Geralt finding Ciri.
Yeah. Well, she's just obsessed with Geralt.
Well, I'm kidding. That's definitely part of it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, Yennefer's in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. So we will get the Nilfgaardian guy back, right? Because he's like bound through dreams
at some point. Yeah, he's not just gone.
Yeah, he's bound through fate or whatever. Yeah, the destiny that Geralt's always running away from, the fate that Yeah, so he's bound to them. I mean, Regis is just so fun. Like when he was asking Geralt, like, how big would the bounty have to be on my head for you to come after me? He's like, dude, nobody has enough money to make me come after you. Like,
right.
Not only did he save him, but like,
but you're a badass. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think whenever they were like kind of talking, like, what do we do about him once everybody started getting afraid of him after the initial trust? Like, well, I mean, you're a vampire, but you saved us, so fuck it. And you're not, threatening us
just
right now.
Just don't ask questions right now.
A couple of days in, they're like, oh yeah, he's a vampire.
And
he's like, I think that he's
blood for a couple days. Don't they need that?
Right. Yeah. Even like in that conversation, Geralt is like, and even amongst the higher vampires, I think he's a special one. So I don't want to fight him.
Yeah, he's an elite, a shiny.
Yeah, he's a shiny high vampire. Yeah. So I don't think. Yeah, I would guess that at least for a minute he sticks around with Milva, make sure that she does okay, recovers from the miscarriage, at least to be put onto the road for recovery. And then maybe he disappears at that point. I don't know. I'm
glad Milva asked for things to be dumbed down a little bit too, because sometimes they were talking really political and I didn't follow. And I've been following the whole time. So she was like, break it down for a demi. I was like, okay, thank God. Well, I mean, maybe she just said like, I might have gotten some of that, but not all of it. And I was like, yeah, right there with you. But yeah, dude, that's when this book gets really tough. Like, for me, just the political intrigue of everything. They'll start saying some names, and it'll almost be like another language for me, and that's the easiest time to zone out, And so now that we're into the fifth book, the third of the series, the not counting the two prequels, like now that we're into it, I feel like I'm getting a lot more of everything, so that's nice. And
you're more familiar with the landscape of everything that's going on. Like for the longest time, because for whatever reason I just hadn't bothered to look at a map. I was just trying to like put it together in my head, and for the longest time I wasn't completely sure where Brokilon was, but now I'm pretty sure where it is. It's on the western side of the Northern Kingdoms. The river that they keep talking about, the one that starts with the Y, the Yaruga, like that seems to be the current dividing line between the Northern Kingdoms and Nilfgaard. They're moving east right now towards, the Druid conclave that they're trying to get to along the river Yaruga. So like it took, a couple of books for me to piece even the landscape together, which is pretty vital whenever you start talking about, political stuff.
For sure.
Because then they're like, well, if they get, if they take Sod and then Redania is next, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't really know what that means.
Like I get Redania next.
I get the literal meaning of that if they take this place, then that person has to step up. But I can't picture that, and so therefore it loses meaning. But now I've got most of it together.
Yeah, I mean, if it was just Geralt traveling, it really wouldn't matter,
Right.
But since we do have the rest of the intrigue and stuff.
But since this is not a story of witching, but is in fact a story of political intrigue.
Right, yeah. That's the big thing. It's not, it's the series is called The Witcher, but
yeah.
It's the political intrigue of the whole area.
Right. And it's like something that people were constantly complaining about with the show is like, The Witcher's not doing a lot of witchering. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. You not knowing any of it and having just really played the games where he is basically just witchering most of the time and sometimes helps out a king here or there. Sure, I can see your gripe with it, but it's not about him being a witcher.
Yeah, if that's all it was about, it wouldn't probably be very good. Like might be like visually fun to watch, but it would be like a great story if that's all he was doing, just a witcher in. And
right, him being a witcher is oftentimes not important at all, or that's not what I meant. Oftentimes is part of the problem that he has trying to get anything done in the political landscape.
Yeah,
and why he thinks that he shouldn't be involved in the political landscape. Like it's more of a recurring theme rather than an active storytelling mechanic.
I like that. That's a fun way to think about it. His witcherness is just a recurring theme, a recurring hurdle for them to jump over a lot. Sometimes, other times it's the way they can get through certain doors because they're witcher. He's a witcher, but it's also a hurdle for them to get over. A lot of times people don't trust him or they want him to do stuff he's not into. Yeah, man. How do you imagine Regis?
I imagine him
I imagine him to be like a 40-something, like young and kind of handsome guy. And then I looked up his picture and he has white hair. And I was like, damn it. Well, that's a fan art, so I don't know.
Right. I keep thinking of him as, I can't remember his name right now. The maester that Cersei uses to overthrow everything in King's Landing, the one who wears the black robes, who does all the the bad stuff. Maester whatever. That's what I picture him as. I picture him as that guy. He's got like sort of
that's a good one.
A similar like attitude and cadence in the way that he talks and like thinks. Although certainly less sinister than that guy was. But that's how I pictured him.
That's a good actor to use. Nice. I like that guy.
His name is gonna bother me, but whatever. That's how I was picturing him.
Kriebold? Master
Kaibold or something. Yeah.
We're so close.
It's right there. Whatever. Damn it.
Yeah.
But I'll look it up. But that's how I think of him. Maybe a little bit more able-bodied looking.
Right. Yeah.
Because he was definitely like on Qyburn.
That's it.
He was definitely on I didn't even have to look it up. It was like definitely like on the back half of his, life and virility.
Yeah.
But this guy being a higher vampire, I imagine, is just before that turn, maybe like a little more like distinguished, not like a 20-something.
Yeah.
But definitely not, hunched over or looking like he might have the appearance of having trouble moving.
Right. Yeah.
Like a man in his prime, in his mid to late 30s, like you had kind of suggested, like perfect, like fighting age and getting things done, and all the sort of like romanticized ideas of a classic man or whatever.
7 and 30. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I just kind of imagine him as like an older gentleman guy, but not like no white hair really, or maybe like
a little bit of
and
salt
brown.
and pepper there, distinguished.
Distinguished. That's why you said that. Yeah, I like that. Can they use magic? I don't think so, right? We haven't seen it yet.
I don't think that they can use like spells in the way that like sorcerers would.
Right.
I think they seem to have their own sort of racial magic. Like being able to turn into a bat turn invisible and being able to charm people, like when he can put you to sleep and stuff like that. So
the charmer.
Yeah. So I think that that's sort of like their own sort of like inherent racial magic that may not necessarily follow the rules of the world that they're in because they come from another parallel universe basically. Although I guess then that just makes, I don't know, like I guess it really depends on if things end up being described as parallel worlds or just other literal worlds from the same universe, because they never really describe what the conjunction of the spheres means.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he might have powers in the same sense as like humans have powers, but they're powers that we've evolved to have to fit in our climate. Like we can sweat to help regulate our body temperature.
Right.
And I'm sure some aliens or whatever don't. Because they don't need to.
You could definitely construe that as an ability
or whatever. I was trying to one time as a little kid, like, what sort of superpowers do I have as a human that like another alien might not have? And that was the only thing I could come up with easily. Right. But I guess in that same vein, because he explained like the evolution of vampires to be like, well, we used to not be like the daytime, but just like how humans have evolved to be able to use night to their advantage, and they have lanterns and electricity. No, they have lanterns and stuff like, and they've now harnessed the nighttime. We have also learned to harness the day as well. So yeah, it's probably just stuff like that. Like I didn't even think about the internal magic of like a race, just like how I don't think of sweating as a superpower.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only one I can think of. Can you think of one?
I don't know. Anytime, I mean, there is sort of like that.
The ability to heal a cut is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, that's true.
We can do that.
Yeah. There's sort of like that innate sense of fear or whatever, or I guess what fear like is more or less.
Yeah, that's
is
a good instinct.
Like an instinctual ability.
Yeah.
To varying degrees in any given person, and then also
like that intuition that like
intuition would be the way to describe it. That's something that I think
cool.
that
That'd be very,
humans have that other things probably don't have, don't have as much. Like a fish does not have intuition, I wouldn't think. I think that's something that is required, that you have, some higher thinking capability to be able, certainly to at least be able to interpret it then and then act upon it. But I think like maybe dogs have a little bit of intuition.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, I know that we would be able to actively use our intuition and then grow from it, whereas like a fish might have an instinctual thing of like, don't swim under that shadow because my dad got killed by a bird or whatever. Like, I guess its dad couldn't get killed by a bird, but like, you know what I mean? Like, fish in the past, he saw his buddy get picked up by a bird or whatever. Like maybe they can't put two and two together, but I've heard that that's a thing. You don't want to stand at this part of the river because then they'll run into your shadow and they'll think you're a bear or a bird or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, but I know they're not literally thinking this shadow is a guy and it'll grab me. I'm sure they're just thinking not safe.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little more simple. It's like survival, not survival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonder what kind of magic gnomes have. Just their tinkering ability. They tinker in this, right? Like they're mechanical kind of. Yeah, that's cool.
That seems to be their predominant trait in most fantasy settings, is to be, inventive and good with mechanics and things like that. Yeah.
Do they do like gasoline like to power like I'm imagining World of Warcraft, I think, where they have those like machines that they run in as their
the Warcraft universe is definitely a little bit more advanced in technology than this is,
for sure. Yeah,
but
well, Geralt becomes a knight officially.
Yeah, he becomes officially Geralt of Rivia.
Yeah,
as bestowed upon him by Queen Meve of
Rivia. No, I'm kidding.
Whatever the other kingdom was that I couldn't remember for a second earlier. But yeah, she's like leading this leftover army of two kingdoms that fell in the early Nilfgaardian attacks, one of them being Rivia. But she leads. She was in that Council of Kings that had happened in the previous book, or maybe it was the first book, if I remember. And she was kind of the one that all the other kings like really respected, or like they portrayed her as being like someone who doesn't always talk, but when she talks, she's saying really smart shit, and everybody better listen up. So she's apparently leading this kind of like guerrilla army of ashes, and Knight's Geralt. Now he's officially Geralt of Rivia, which is a joke that they're both like in on in that moment. Like she winks at him and kind of laughs, and he kind of bitterly smiles like, "Oh God, isn't this fitting?"
Yeah. I feel like that's just the story of his life.
Right. Yeah. Just everything is just like a cruel irony of like, everything that you would want or whatever,
Yeah.
You would want the glory and to become a knight, in a romantic sense, but not Geralt. And of course it would happen in this way.
Yeah.
Being given to him by a queen who has no kingdom.
Man. I've been enjoying him a lot more. Not that I disliked him ever as a character. He's like, but I've been getting a lot more of like his humor, I think. And because I was laughing a lot more this time through. And
this one was a little bit more ready to be funny than the previous couple, I feel like, for some reason. Maybe because now we're in the shit.
Yeah,
so like there's room for it. Like when they kept being like over and over, it's a long story. I was laughing at that after like the third one. I was like, okay, like I get it, guys. Yeah. And there was another one that was kind of a frequent callback going on. I can't remember what it is now, but I felt like there was a little bit more humor a lot in this one than in maybe the previous couple of books.
Yeah. Geralt's not going, has no girl problems really this book either.
Yeah.
I mean, he has girls around, but no real like.
Not some of the same sort of like, romantically entangled issues.
Yeah, like whereas in some of the other ones we had, obviously Yennefer, but I can't remember any of the other sorceresses' names now.
Like Triss.
Thank you. Yeah, there was like that love triangle, not really love, but the scandalous triangle.
Right. There was definitely some hard feelings in there between Yennefer and Triss. Once Yennefer knew that they had been together, and then Triss with her regret that they couldn't be together.
Yeah, and even Geralt with Triss, because he doesn't regret it, and he still cares for her. And I don't know if he said that he loved her as well, but I think he said that he cared about her. And he
right. Yeah.
He doesn't take anything back. He would do it the same, which is
right.
Pretty big for him.
Yeah. I think that maybe some of the sort of romantically involved entanglements are happening at the sorceress's conclave thing, or at least through
drama.
Yennefer's like mind space, because she's still like best friends with Triss, right? She still wants to talk to Triss or something like that. But at least in the verbiage that was being used, like Triss was looking at Yennefer and recognizing that she was becoming distressed because of the news that she was getting. And Yennefer was like, I need to talk to Triss about this because she'll understand. And then whenever Yennefer was just having been revived, from the transmogrification, was not what they call it, but it's, what I'll call it because of Harry Potter. And she's talking with Francesca, the queen of the elves there. Francesca's saying like bringing her up to speed on what happened, and saying about how like now Kira Metz is into him or whatever. And then Yennefer's like, oh, I bet she's pretty upset that she didn't get to bang him because that's the fucking effect he has on everybody.
God, he must be like the only guy out there that smells good.
Right, like, he has the pheromone or something.
He just doesn't smell like sweat and ass. Like he gets sweaty and dirty, but like for whatever reason, his witcher power is to like smell really good all the time. In the game, it was a little like annoying how much, at least in just the first section that I started playing, how much he was asking for, like how much he was telling everybody like, oh, well, she smells like lilac and gooseberries if you've ever been around that. It's like, bro, shut up. Nobody cares. If somebody came up to me and asked me, have you seen this person? They smell like this. I'd be like, go away. Like, I wouldn't say that, but in my mind, I'd be like, this guy's a freak. Like, he's telling me her smell. Like, I've never picked somebody out because of their smell. Like, now, if somebody's walked through an aisle and a friend of mine was like, I can still smell that girl that walked through. Like, that's different. Right. But, like, nobody's come up to me after like, did you smell that girl? I'm looking for her.
Right, yeah. It's sort of like her trademark thing, though.
No, yeah. And I'm sure in a world with a bunch of bad smells or not as many good smells, that would be pretty distinct. Like if she came into the bar and then the whole bar smelled of lilac and gooseberry, or maybe just her presence changed the smell in the atmosphere. Like I definitely see it being distinct, but it just, to me, it felt kind of like cringy. Like, geez, dude.
Right, yeah. Well, the people that he gets information from ultimately are like, yeah, she did actually. And I think like whenever you first run into Vesemir in the beginning of the third game, and they're like talking about stuff, and he's like, I know what you're looking at for, blah, 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 blah. There have been tales of a sorceress dressed in black and white leaving behind a trail of lilac and gooseberries. Like, so like, I guess it's like a given thing in this world that's what people are looking out for when it comes to Yennefer.
Yeah, and that's like, if that's part of her reputation, that makes a little more sense now that you say it like that. But to me, just like, especially if you're coming into the game not knowing much about it comes off a little
it would be
strong.
Strange, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't think of it like that until... And I've even read the books. What's wrong with
you? I wonder where we next see Yennefer.
I feel like we need...
Because now she's in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. The only thing left for like our rat pack is to get like an animal involved. We need like one of them to have like a relationship with like a higher animal, like one that's like a dog that's a little smarter than other dogs, or like
if that unicorn bird could come back and hang out with Ciri.
That would be awesome. Drink its blood, live forever. I'm just kidding. Right. Man, that would be dope. That unicorn would be a good hire. Man, a unicorn would be a dope animal.
Yeah, it would. Unicorns are cool.
Do they just eat grass like horses?
I guess so. I don't know.
They drink sunlight. Sunlight and run across rainbows.
Right. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be cool though to get just... I'd like to run into like a mythical animal or something that maybe Ciri bonds with whenever she's no longer with the rats for whatever reason. Like that I don't know. I could see maybe that happening. Or I always feel like in stories there's some, at least maybe with me because I've always had animals growing up. But I feel like there's always some element to like an animal in really, really fun, good stories. Like in Game of Thrones, they had they had their dogs. And,
you ever like have a book, right?
Yeah, it kind of felt like more when I was going on, but like, yeah, they definitely don't matter towards the end. I mean, only for Bran.
I know.
I mean, I definitely thought more was going to happen with Jon Snow after the 5th book. I was like, man, he's going to lean hard into being like half skin changer or whatever. And it's like, dude, you just threw away the coolest power.
Right. Yeah.
But whatever. And and the dragons, I guess that's an animal. That's a higher being. Harry Potter, I can't really think of... I mean, they're constantly running into animals. Like, house elves they're not animals because they're more humanoid. Right, but to, that is a creature that is a
non-human.
Even that would be fine with me. I mean, I guess the vampire isn't scratching my itch for that as much as a house elf would, but like... but I don't know. I think that'd be kind of a fun thing that maybe I hadn't... Definitely that I hadn't thought of until just now. But that maybe would be cool to have later on, just like some fun animal character or whatever, but not crucial or anything. I mean, there was Hedwig. I'm still thinking of the animals. Yeah, I can't. I mean, you think Geralt's even going to get back with Ciri until like the last book? I mean, we kind of have a little bit of cheating because we know the titles of the books, and
I feel like, here in this, in book 4, Tower of the Ghouls, I think they meet back up in this one at some point. I don't think like at the very end. I think towards the end.
Yeah.
And I think that mostly because the 5th book didn't come out for like another like 2 or 3 years after. Like the rhythm in the publishing was broken and it took longer. And so I think, the climax of the saga happens in the 5th book, and everybody needs to be, more or less back together to be able to start that.
Okay.
So that would be my guess. I don't know.
That's a good guess. I mean... Yeah, it'd just be us speculating like when or where or how, Yeah, no, I've been really enjoying this series, and honestly, I didn't really feel like... It's not that I didn't like it or I didn't feel like... I feel the drive for it. Like, I'm really into it. I'm going to go back and reread the other ones, like... this week as we're listening to as I'm listening instead of Harry Potter, I'd like to listen to one of the other ones and get back some just base story, like go back over The Last Wish and like make sure I get all those back, because those are more just like side stories that jump all around, not even necessarily.
They jump around pretty dramatically in the time as well.
Yeah, so
like there was a point where they were referencing in one of the like book excerpts that lead to some of the chapters. They mentioned the like whenever some of the sorcerers were going crazy and killing a bunch of young girls, thinking that they were the incarnation of the Destroyer or whatever. The thing that happened to Renfrey, that was like 40 years before where things are happening right now. Because I sat there and I did all the math. They gave dates, and then I was looking at it and I was like, oh well, if that was in the 1270s, then and so like it was probably like 40 to 45 years prior to where we are now.
And Regis had been around for like 400 years already.
Right. He's working on his 500, or what do you say? It was like 460 or something like that. 475.
Yeah, that sounds right. I know he's a couple hundred. I just had his Wikipedia.
Oh yeah.
I thought it said that he was born in 839. So yeah, we're only in 12, right?
And we should be like in the mid to late 13s.
Oh, okay.
I think at this point.
So
part of what was in that book referenced something that happened in 1350, but I don't know if that book is written like long after everything that we're experiencing happened, or somewhere in between, or whatever, So because they also don't ever give, that I've come across, they've not given any year as to what is now. Is this 1320? Is this 1520?
Yeah, that's one of the few things that I can complain about with the audio, is it's really hard for me to grasp the current timeline.
I suppose it could probably be figured out, because with Regis's timeline, him saying that
about that many years.
Him and his kin coming over after the conjunction of the spheres, and then I think we should know what year that is relative to humans, to the human timeline. And so we could probably piece it together, but it would take flipping back and forth between a couple of books to figure that out.
And somebody's done the research. I'm sure we can.
Yeah, I just look it up on Wikipedia, or the Witcher Wiki, but that's always dangerous.
Oh yeah,
because you never know what's going to get spoiled when you start just doing that.
Definitely don't want that.
Yeah. So
there is a fun little guy online on YouTube that doesn't have like any followers, but it's like Witcherology, and he's got like the books broken down, characters broken down. Yeah, they're fun. I haven't listened to any of the characters because I don't want spoilers, and I'll listen after the fact sometimes. Like if I had just like today, I listened to most of the reading yesterday. Well, all the reading yesterday, and so I listened to the Witcherology thing to refresh before I walked in here, just like trying to remember everything from nothing. And he's pretty cool. He does a pretty good job, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna listen to him when I'm trying to get the recap. I'm gonna do the books. Like I wanna hear all that side stuff, because he obviously doesn't get all the fun little details in there.
Right. Just breaking down the larger points to make it a little bit more understandable, because it can get really convoluted sometimes.
Definitely.
But, well, as y'all know, we're just proceeding through the rest of the franchise. We've got, next up is Tower of the Ghouls. So I guess we're going back to Thaned for some reason. And we're going to find out what it is that happens there. Let me pull this back up here.
The
Tower of Swallows, not ghouls. Different kind of bird.
Yeah, this one's, at least for the audio, it's like an extra 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah,
they're
it's a little bit longer.
10 to 12, I think, normally hours for these books.
This is a little bit longer one. It's like 440 pages or something like that, which is give or take 80 to 100 pages longer than the last couple. We're gonna split it in half again, like this one, and then probably with the next one as well, unless it jumps up to 700 pages or something crazy like that. So read the first 6 chapters this week. That's about 230-ish pages, give or take. And then we'll take on the second half of it next week, or a week following. Sorry, well, I guess this week. However you want to, interpret it. Do you start from 0 or do you start from 1 when you're counting?
Yeah.
But so first 6 chapters, Tower of Swallows, book 4 in the Witcher saga. And then after that'll be
more, right?
There's only one more that's part of the saga, and then there's another one that he wrote that dips back in time and is like another like short story sort of thing.
Are we gonna do that one?
Maybe we'll look into it. Maybe just like knock it out and just like mention it anecdotally.
We can talk about the entire series or something.
Or something like that.
Do that on the last episode.
So, but that's what to do this week. First 6 chapters. Tower of Swallows.
Yeah, you guys know how to find us as always. Instagram and Twitter at ears_stamps, and then dogearsandtimestamps@gmail.com. And the other podcast that had like dog-eared pages or whatever, that one that I told you about like a couple months ago, they're not doing it anymore. So their book club
outlasted them.
Yeah.
Go us.
Not to say don't start your own, but let us know, what y'all are thinking, and give us some feedback on The Witcher. I'm playing the game now. I know I'd been saying I was going to get into the game a while back, but just actually started playing this week. It's been cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm slow to get into games, but I feel like once I get into this one, especially like I was just saying, I really got the Witcher bug. I think reading this book that I'll really start getting into the game. Yeah. And because I was fighting these ghouls, and it was like the first ghoul like almost killed me. The second one I like figured out how to fight, and like the third and fourth one like I was only getting nicked around. Yeah. And then I was running through these ghouls like it was an area you weren't supposed to go.
Yeah. At a point it just opens up and you can go, get yourself fucked up wherever you want.
Yeah, I was doing that before you were supposed to, I think, because it was like it still got the dotted line for me to follow. Like you probably have that the whole game, but I definitely went off of mine to fight some guys, and it was a lot of fun just rolling and dodging and getting the feel for the game, Yeah. And that'll be scratching the Witcher bug, the Witchering part of the bug, you know. So I won't necessarily have to be looking out for that kind of stuff. I'll be learning a lot about like the other kinds of creatures and stuff, the creatures we've already met, but it'll be firmer foundation, especially when I'm re-listening. So I'm looking forward to that. So
nice. Yeah. Hopefully I'll start it relatively soon. Still getting through Breath of the Wild. I think I'm close to being done with it.
Good?
Yeah, that game rules.
Really? Yeah. Good. Awesome. Breath of the Wild. Do you turn into an animal?
Nah.
What do you do? What's the thing?
It's just
Twilight,
like
that other
super open world.
Oh, okay. And it's like a wild world, I guess? Or the world is always wild?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's just they're just trying to invoke the idea of like being out there.
Very cool.
I guess is what that is about more than anything.
Well, maybe I'll catch up to. No, I won't. You're really far into The Witcher 3. I was like, maybe I'll catch up to you. I'll do my best to catch up, and then maybe we can play the end together.
Right. My plan is to once we're done with the books, then watch the recaps and then get back into 3.
Okay.
So that's got time.
I'll have time to catch up.
For us to get to the point that I start playing again. Hopefully I'll have finished. I'm sure that I'll have finished Zelda by then, but whatever. In any case, I'm Will Hedrick.
I'm Jordan Schaffer.
This is Dog Ears and Timestamps.
Witcher Cat.